This is lesson 10.3, chapter 10, shapes of distribution. Now we use dot plots or histograms to identify the shape of a distribution. That means how is the data distributed? Is it evenly spread? Is it more towards, there are some towards the high end, there are more towards the low end, so things like that. So when something is skewed, and this is a word that you have to know, skewed, when something is skewed, it just means that it has a slanted position or direction. Think of it as being skewed means sloppy kind of. So if you look at this picture, this is nice and neat, but this one is sloppy or it is slanted in a position or direction. That's what it means. Okay, let's go ahead and look at what it means when we say symmetric or skewed distribution. Okay, now you all know the word symmetry. Symmetry means it's even on both sides. Like if you look at us, human body outward, we have equal parts on both sides, the right and left side of the body. So or any shape can be divided into so this is a symmetry. If you make a heart, so it goes straight through and then you can have two equal parts, so that is symmetry. We all know this. Now when you think about distribution, think about the shape of a bell. Isn't this how the shape of a bell looks? So if it's a nice neat little bell like this, could be any shape. So one could be, it could be wider like here, it could be narrower like here. But if it's basically the shape of a bell, then this is called a symmetric distribution. That means that the number of data are pretty much evenly spread, with the highest data being in the middle, and then you have your other data here. So that's what it means. So you have something like this. So this is a symmetric distribution. Now if you look in the bottom here, this is a skewed distribution. That means it's a sloppy distribution kind of. So this is called a tail. So this is a tail, and if you had bars here, then you would see that most of the data is here. Okay, and then there's fewer on this side. So the data is to the right. Isn't this the right of a graph? So if you had a graph, isn't this the right side? So if you have most of the data on the right side, and this is called the tail, this is called skewed left, because this is where it's sloppy on the left side. Or think about it this way, wherever the tail is, that's the direction of the skew. So tail here is on the left, so we say that it's skewed on the left. Let's take a look at this one. In this case, this is the graph and this is the bell curve. So if you had a graph and you had the graphs or the data, it could be a dot plot, it could be anything. If you plotted them, most of the data is to the left of the graph, and this is the tail. So it's sloppy on the right, so this is called skewed right. So that's the goal, boys and girls, in this lesson, to figure out if the data is symmetric, skewed to the left, or skewed to the right. For example, let's take a look at this again. In this case, the first one, the tail right here, so you see the bars. So if you look at it, this is the long tail and it is to the left. The tail is to the left, so we call it skewed left. And we say that the data, or most of the data, is on the right. In this case, it's a nice, if you draw that line, it's a nice neat little bell shape, and we call this symmetric. That means, so if you sort of cut it up like this, and isn't there sort of equal number on both sides? So data is data on left is about the mirror image. That means it's the same mirror image as data on the right. And the last one, let's take a look at the last type of distribution. Again, if you make a bell like that, that means, and then you sort of, isn't the bell towards the right side? So this is your tail right here. So this is skewed right. Again, wherever the tail is, that's the side, or it's sloppy on the right side, you can say. So it's skewed right. And most data is on the left. So let's go ahead and do a couple of problems. And in this lesson, all you're doing is identifying the data or the given graphs as symmetric, skewed to the left, or skewed to the right. Okay, let's take a look. And I want to see this line on whichever you're doing the rest of the problems. I want to see the bell curve. So this is the first one. This is where the tail is. I want you to label the tail. So this is skewed left, and data is mostly on the right. Let's take a look at another one. In this case, this is the sort of bell curve. This is the tail. So this is skewed right, because remember, tail is on the right, so it's skewed right, and data is mostly on the left. So data is mostly distributed on the left. That's what we're talking about. All right, go ahead and finish the rest, and I will see you next class.